Hi folks, cell phone video here, and I just realized that I forgot to start the conversation back in my driveway. So obviously this is a little bit of a wonky setup here. Here's the story. So I was having problems with my Stage's power meter. I contacted them and they offered to send me a new one. So I have the new power meter on the bike. So partly I'm doing this to just basically see how it feels, because from limited experience with these, they all read a bit differently. I was having a discussion with another rider that I ride with fairly regularly. I feel like he's actually stronger than I am. But when we kind of compared notes on FTP and things like that, his was relatively significantly, in my opinion, lower than mine, which is really not what I expected. So I'm not sure if my power meter has always been reading high. I guess it's going to be a little bit of a bummer if it was wrong and it was reading too high, because that means my numbers are in reality lower, but I've never had anything to compare it to, so I'm not really sure. And I really still don't have anything to compare it to, because obviously they took one power meter off the bike and put the new one on. It's not like I have both of them. So this one's brand new. It's been recently calibrated, although I wasn't able to do that with my phone for some reason. With the Stages app, I had to grab the Garmin. So while I had the Garmin, excuse me, the air quality today is terrible. Pollen in the air is brutal. So I'm hoping to get through this ride okay. So I grabbed the Garmin because I needed to do a calibration, or wanted to do a calibration. The Karoo is set up with turn-by-turn directions. This is the route that maybe if you've seen videos before, you've seen me do this route. It's the same local route. It's about 15 miles. It takes me about an hour. So I guess the good news is that if you can see it, and I'm not sure how well the cell phone video, I thought I had grabbed my GoPro, but it's not in my back pocket. So I must have left it in my car. So normalized power right now, and I've only obviously been riding for a mile, so it's within 1 watt of each other, so that's good news. I guess what I don't know is how different readings feel on this bike right now, or with this power meter. So we're gonna just continue a ride. I may or may not stop. Where I don't have the GoPro, it's a little more, I don't think the video quality is as good from the phone, so we'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll just do a quick summary at the end, and maybe I'll go inside and check the numbers. Hey folks, so we're at the end of the ride. Back on the cell phone, I did find my GoPro in the back of my car, right where I left it. Hopefully the wind noise isn't too bad, but as you've come to find out from these videos, it's always windy where I live. Very rare that we don't have a windy day. So good news here is that the Garmin and the Karoo are within 1 watt of each other for normalized power. They're also within 11 seconds of each other for time. So that's good. Distance is low on the Karoo, but it's always low on the Karoo, so I haven't quite figured that out yet. Heart rate is the same, and I'm also noticing that the heart rate, well, it is changing on the Garmin. That's the one thing I would request that they do to the Karoo. Is I realize most of the other numbers are not going to change, but your heart rate is going to go down as you're standing on the side of the road, potentially paused and resting. Particularly if you're doing some sort of training where you're actually resting until your heart rate drops to a certain level. You're not going to get that on the Karoo, at least not right now. These numbers are going to be less interesting. That's about right. I still have not figured out the elevation thing or remembered to do it. Map trace was fine. Turn-by-turn directions were okay, with the exception of the things that I've basically already noted, since there hasn't been a software update since the last time I recorded. So I guess what's interesting to me, or I guess it's just a feel issue. So 184 watts, that probably feels about right for me for the amount of effort. So 15.5 miles, almost an hour. That's a 16.7 average. But what I'm going to do is hopefully go inside. I think I have 2 or 3 or maybe 4 rides that match this exact route. There's possibly some variation in there where I made a couple of slight detours while trying to either test the Karoo's navigation or something else, but they should be reasonably close. And I was thinking about it as I was riding, that maybe just some simple math, like taking the power and dividing it by the hour to get like a, kind of a watts per per hour over the same route, or basically the same route, might reveal something. So I'm thinking that if anything, the readings from this new power meter did maybe feel a little low, but that could be just me not having a great day, or could be a number of different things. But that normalized power for an hour, given the effort, seems about right. So we'll go inside, have a look at what these things look like in Golden Cheetah, and maybe there's something to be learned from that. All right, let's try this again, folks. So I just recorded about 10 minutes worth of review of this, and the audio was not present when I went to put it together. So try to do this a little bit faster. Maybe I've learned something. We have two sets of data here where there's two different Golden Cheetah screens, but I'll get to that in a second. So this is today's ride. Purple is Karoo, blue is the Garmin, and really everything looks fine, as it should. I mean, it's been fine for quite a while now, or I guess for a couple of weeks, with the exception of turn-by-turn directions. Most of the actual data recording has been fairly stable. I'm again low on mileage on the Karoo, and I've done this so many times, I've almost given up trying to get the wheel circumference set the same, because every time I set the Karoo, the Garmin seems to recalibrate and it changes, and there's a difference again. The number you wouldn't think should keep going up, so the Karoo shouldn't always be low, but it seems like it's always low. And also the elevation is all fouled up here. I'm not really sure what's going on with 40,000 feet of elevation. But that would be a heck of a ride for an hour to go up 40,000 feet. I didn't reset my elevation, but when uploaded to Strava, this actually looks okay. And overall, it's fine. The time is off by a little bit, and it's weird to me that the Garmin is high, because that when you're riding, the Garmin feels like the pause kicks in. So maybe it's just a audible thing or a visual thing that the Karoo isn't displaying when it's pausing as quickly as it's actually pausing the recording. But overall, all this stuff is good. The heart rate zones are good. The power zones are good. Mins and maxes, or averages and maxes, are fine, and totally within tolerance, especially where I didn't actually hit the buttons at exactly the same time. These charts all look good. There's a few spikes here and there, but there's some up and some down at various places, and when the numbers all come out in the summary, then there's really not a heck of a lot to complain about. As usual, these numbers are okay, and the speed is going to be that slightly little bit lower because that wheel circumference issue. So I would hope at some point that they can actually put an auto calibration in there, and that takes, I think, hopefully some of the guesswork out of it for people, and especially people like me who can't seem to figure it out. So the other set of data, and I'm not going to go through it probably in as much detail as I did the last time, because it's not really necessary. So I found 4 rides over basically the same course. But what I did was, you can see that these two, the one in blue and the one in red, are unchecked. And that's because these are the two that felt the most close together as far as effort and making sure that the course was the same. So again, I'm 95% sure that this was exactly the same course. I occasionally take little detours here and there when I'm riding this route, mostly to stave off boredom on this little short loop that I do. And in this instance, the ride was from April 29th. This is the one from today, May 25th. This makes sense. I'm 3 minutes faster. I'm probably fitter than I was a month ago. What's a little bit weird is that the power is down. So there's 2 potential explanations for this. One is that there's a slight variation in the power meters. This one's with the old power meter. This one's with the new power meter. It could be that it reads a little bit lower, so I'll have to feel that out as I ride with it. I actually planned. My friend has a Wahoo kicker, and obviously that records power separately. So my plan is actually in the next few weeks to take that to his house, to take my bike to his house, and sort of get a feel for where my power meter is in relation to a kicker. Those are reputed to be a little more accurate than your average left crank power meter from various manufacturers, but I guess we'll find out. So I was a little faster today, but with less power, and was faster over the same course. Now, the only other factor here is that I had quite the tailwind. So there's a big, long west-east stretch of this ride. And I can actually show that on the map, I think. So this section here, I detour this way, and then I come back this way and run all the way down here. And actually, these courses were a little bit different. So today I didn't make this little jog, so I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure which one it's displaying, but I did there's two long stretches of east to west, and I did have a significant tailwind behind me. And then when I get onto the east to west part, I'm actually kind of protected by trees and stuff, so there's not as much wind there. So it's quite possible that the tailwind accounts for the speed advantage, and that the power really is very close. It didn't seem significantly off, so looking down at various points, I tend to do this. Did this with my old power meter, and I'm doing it now. I would look down and say, okay, this feels like X number, whatever that number happens to be. And I was pretty close today, so it's quite possible that the meter is actually fine, and the previous one was fine and was reading accurately. I don't really know, and I probably won't know until I have more to compare it to. So bottom line, I guess, is really pretty much good news. I did follow a track today, or a route today. That was fine, with the exception of some of the things that I've noted, kind of ad nauseum in the last video, where some of the turn instructions are a little bit weird. I did go off course again today, and that rerouted me fine. I have not done that recommended factory reset, because in my experience, it's not necessary. The trick that I found, or the thing that makes it work for me, is to make sure that I'm in motion when I'm starting the ride. So it allows me to have auto pause on and follow a route, and not get stuck with the waiting for instruction or waiting for GPS message. As long as I am moving when I start a ride, then it all seems to be good. So I guess that's it. All this information, all this is really, these are all actually pretty good, and considering it was 2 different rides a month apart. Not sure what this deal is, but it's not the comparison of the Garmin to the Karoo. It's the Karoo against itself, or me against myself, over the 2 rides. So it's possible this day, I was just spinning a little higher, but overall everything else seems good. So I guess that's it. I have a century tomorrow planned. I'm not sure if I said that before, because like I said, I've recorded this now twice, but I'm going to ride only with the Karoo. I may back it up with the Garmin, my watch, which doesn't record power. So I'm a little concerned with the Karoo. It took us last year about 7 hours, including stops, to do the 100 miles. It was about 6 hours total moving, which should be fine. I mean, in reality, I should end up with about 30% battery left if I leave with a fully charged one, especially where I'm not going to use turn by turn. I'm only just going to record. So I guess wish me luck, and if you've gotten this far, thanks for watching.